What's up, what's up, what's up? You're listening to another episode of our Journey of Love podcast. It's your girl, Ashlee, and I'm here with the husband. What up, babe?
What up, though?
Listen, love's a trip. We went from being best friends to being husband and wife, and let me tell you, it's been a journey.
Tune in as we discuss our fun, inspiring, and at times challenging conversations. Whether you're single, dating, engaged, or married, this podcast is for you.
It's definitely for you, so let's take a ride on this journey. What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Ashlee. We're here with another episode of our Journey of Love podcast. I'm here with the husband. What up, babe?
What up, dope?
How you doing?
I'm good.
You look blessed. You look good.
Thank you. Blessed and highly favored.
Yes. Come on now.
Yeah.
That's all
great.
you say. You great?
Slept well.
You should have.
Yep. Ate good.
You should have. I was a chef.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that.
I do what I can. Part of my wifely duties. When I feel like it. You get good meals every blue moon, whenever I get urged to cook.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate that. One of those mini gems that you have.
Yeah, I'm a chef for real. I'm a singer, artist, a chef.
Yeah, at home.
First of all, you tried it. Don't kill my dreams.
Don't kill my dreams. I didn't kill your drems at all.
Don't kill my dreams.
Said at home.
Don't kill my dreams.
You all of that.
I told you I'm coming out with an EP. I'm not playing.
Yeah. At home.
Whatever. Listen, babe, we got a special guest in the house.
Yeah.
Yes, Miss Siedah Guess. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you today?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Of course, of course. Now, we got to tell the people who you are, what you do, what you're about. Go ahead, take the floor.
Perfect. So, my name is Siedah Guess, formerly Siedah Garrett. So a lot of people know me by my maiden name, but I'm the owner and CEO of Young and Financially Lit. And we are a financial education firm that specializes in being able to perpetuate and continue financial stability throughout communities across America. And so long story short, what that means is that we educate individuals, families, and business owners on how money works. It's something that most of us have not been taught throughout, our life or our journey. And most of us are winging it. We are doing it by trial and error. And, that's just not the way to go. And so for me, that's one of our passions. And also being able to actually help those individuals, families, and business owners implement financial strategies as well as business strategies so that they can be what we call not used to be's. So I don't know, have you guys ever heard of used to be's before?
Like used to be broke.
That's a good used to be. Yeah. That's a good used to be. But most of the used to be's we have are those people that in your life that tell the stories about the good oldies. Back in used to be, right? And you may have seen that in your family or a business owner where maybe you had the aunt, the uncle, or so forth that when you were younger, they had it all. And as you got older, things changed.
Right.
Or you see somebody own a business, right? And as they got older, things changed. And so we call those used to be's. And so our goal is to help people in communities, especially when it comes to generational wealth, lessen the number of used to be stories we have so that we can continue that great economic and financial stride.
I love that. Used to be. I don't want to be used to be.
It used to be.
I don't want to do that. I don't want to fall in that category.
But it's great that you're out here, trying to teach everybody how to spend their money, save their money, and financial wealth, and
that's true.
Trying to get that bag.
Yeah, because I don't think it's not taught. You're right. It's not taught. It's something that we are winging. I know for me personally, just mistakes have been made, and it's just learn from mistakes. Like, okay, well, not going to do that again. Let's try a different strategy. Let's try this. So I think this is just very important for people in general, but especially within our community. I think it's essential that we do that.
Yeah,
because I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was saying, I always tell people that I always got the 4 basic lessons when it comes to money. The first one was you got to work hard for it. The second one is you got to pay your tithes.
Yes.
Especially in my household, okay?
Yes,
you gotta give
10%.
The third one is you got to save it. And the fourth one is you got to pay your bills on time.
Yeah.
And then that And when you look at why most people say things like we hate adulting, right? That's a thing, or why do we got to adult today? It's because nobody prepared us beyond that
Right.
for what the world really meant. And that was my awakening point. I'm just like, holy crap, I'm out here making money, but besides those 4 lessons, I don't really know what else to do next. And
Right.
so how do
Right. That's awesome. That's really awesome what you're doing. So I know we wanted to talk about money. Money is such a big topic, but it's specifically money as it relates to relationships. We hear that, one of the reasons for high divorce rates is money. That's what it boils down to. So we wanted you to give us some little tidbits and some wisdom as it pertains to relationships and money. So with that being said, how does money or the lack thereof affect romantic relationships?
Oh, that's a good question. Straight out the gate. I always say, um, there ain't no honey if there isn't any money. Okay. And that's just the truth of the matter, because money consumes our mental. Think about how much, you think about money. Most people, when they wake up, they're thinking about how they're going to make more money, how they're going to keep the money they have, how they're going to spend money, or what they, that is what our minds are concerned about on a day-to-day basis. Whether it's we got to go to work to make this money, or we got to, do whatever the case may be, or not have enough of it. So when your mindset is consumed by the problems that you have, and you don't know how to address those problems, that leaves less room to really think about the romantic part of it. I'm not trying to think about, babe, how good you look, what you gonna eat last night, if I can't figure out how to pay my bills, or if I'm doing something that maybe I don't necessarily love. It takes up more space than necessary that I could be given to my significant other. Biggie said, more money, more problems.
Correct.
He said correct. I like that one. I like to say more money, more solutions. In a sense of, when you have money, you're able to fix problems or have, less problems that money typically allows you to handle. And so it's not a big deal. For example, most Americans are one paycheck away from financial devastation. Meaning that if you don't get paid on this Friday or whatever you're supposed to get paid, you're strapped for cash. And we've seen that happen, especially during last year, during the pandemic, right? Not only were people in a financial jam, but we saw businesses
right
in financial jam. And so if I don't have money, or I'm thinking about, we don't have a good emergency fund, or if we got a, flat tire, how are we going to pay for it? What account is it going to come out of? That's going to cause friction in my relationship, because we should be celebrating and enjoying each other and spending quality time, not spending time talking about money problems or the lack of money problems. And so it can have a huge impact, the lack of. And when you actually have money, a consistent cash flow, you know what you're doing, you have a plan, it creates some sense of security and a peace of mind that frees up that mental space that we can talk about. Let's go pick flowers today, or let's go to a sports game, or let's go do the things that we truly want to do without having that thought in the back of the mind that says, how much is this going to cost?
Right.
Where is it from? Which credit card we want to put it on?
Right.
You can do more things freely and actually get to enjoy your spouse and not attach a price tag to them.
I like that. Not attach a price tag. Yes. Come on, price tag. Right. So with that being said, do you think that married couples should combine finances? Should they leave them separately? Should they do a combination of both? What are your feelings in regards to that?
Yeah, so it really depends on the couple.
Okay.
It really depends on the couple. So I recommend that, one, you have the financial conversation together. That is something that every couple needs to do, is you need to talk about your finances together, and you need to get on the same page as far as what you are intending to do or trying to do. As you all know, marriage is about building something with someone else for the rest of your life. So the first thing I always tell couples is you got to set goals. Not just, individual goals, but also your financial goals. Where do you see yourself? And once you can agree to whatever financial goals you all have planned, you're trying to accomplish, whether it's buying a home, having children, what type of school or education you want for them, retirement, things like that, then you can decide how to go about and what makes the most sense for you as a couple, whether you're managing those finances together, separately, or so forth. So having a conversation should always be a joint thing. That's where we see a lot of breakdown that happens, is because couples are not talking deeply about money, and they talk very surface level about it. And once you can have that deep conversation, then it really depends on you, right? I've seen it work a lot of ways for many different couples. Some couples do everything together in one pot, and that works for them. Some couples have joint accounts, and then they each have their own separate accounts. And maybe from the joint account, they'll pay their bills, and from the separate account, they will pay, do whatever they want to do. So they may set an amount that, every paycheck we put in 50% into the joint account, and then we can do whatever we want. I've seen couples do allowances. That's always an interesting one. Always an interesting one for me. We had an event a few weeks ago called Love and Money, and one of the attendees, he said, I give my wife an allowance for $500 a month. I said, she's a very good wife.
Yeah.
I don't do that. But
that's kind of old school, right?
It's
it can be antiquated.
It can be a little bit old school. That's why now the husband will typically go out and get the bacon, and the wife will cook it up.
Right.
So some people, that works for them. But in the time that we're in, where you have the wife being just as much as an income earner in the household, the husband being an income earner in the household, things are a little bit different. So you have to find the balance that is for you. But what we do find is that the goals have to be aligned. And so whenever I sit down and do a consultation with someone who's married, the spouse has to be present. I do not talk to married couples without the spouse being present, because the goals are never on the same page. The wife is sometimes typically more concerned about the children, the parents-in-law, how everybody's going to work together. And the husband on the other side is more so concerned about me and my honey. That's what I'm worried about. The kids better get it together sooner or later. Process. I'm just thinking about that. And so, one spouse may say they want to move somewhere warm, and the other spouse says, I really like it where we are. And so we got to get them on the same page as far as where they're trying to go. Okay. Because that's where the divide happens. And once we get them on the same page of where they're trying to go, we allow their personality and what works best for them, tailor a plan that fits how they interact with each other.
So what have you seen throughout your interactions with different couples? Because I've always heard there's always like a spender and a saver. Have you noticed that within your interactions that is always that type of combination, or is that the?
Yes. So I always say it's typically we hear spender and saver, but a lot of times it comes down to power and control. Who feels they are in control versus who feels they are out of control. And so one of the biggest complaints we get is that another partner is sabotaging the goals that I have set. For example, we're trying to save for a down payment for a house, but he just won't stop buying sneakers. Right?
Why you do me like that?
That was the thing right there.
I was stretching my neck.
Golly.
I had these things to say. I have fun with my couples, right? But so why that happens is maybe the person who's buying sneakers, they typically feel less in control. And so spending is a way that they are allowed to rebel.
Interesting.
This is my money. I never really agreed to wanting to buy a house anyway, especially not where you said you wanted to buy a house at. So this is my way of doing what I want to do and finding a sort of way to rebel. Versus when the goals are aligned and there's no power struggle, I don't mind working together with you. But whenever I feel as though there's an imbalance in control or the goals aren't aligned, that's typically where we see couples doing opposite things. One is saving and one is spending. So it's a little bit deeper than, a saver versus a spender. The other thing to take in note to that is you got to know the person you married. And you got to get into those deeper conversations, because how we are socialized with money plays a very important part to the habits that we have with money. So what I mean by that, in your household, maybe nobody ever saved. And everything that came in, you spent. So those are the habits that you have. And maybe in another household, your parents were very frugal. They were very tight. And so you try to keep as much as possible. And then when we come together, my way is the right way and your way
is the wrong
way. Like, how do we bring these two together? But that comes from how we were socialized with money. And so we do a class called Emotional Money, because you got to understand money is very emotional. How do we know that? Everybody knows what to do. Everybody knows you have to save money. Everybody knows that you got to invest. Like, we know this stuff, but why don't we do it? It's how we feel about the money. It's how we think about the money. It's how we see the money should benefit us. That's the emotional part. So you really got to understand and get over some of those emotional barriers from how we were socialized with money to truly have a healthy relationship with that as you move forward. I hope that.
Girl, you dropping some knowledge. Come on now. Come on now. I'm loving this. Let me write that down. Take that course.
Yeah, it's true.
See, he tripping.
I don't know why she give me these looks over here.
Most of my client sessions happen just like this with couples. So we have it's literally just like this. I don't know why you looking at me like that for.
Why I'm over here. She just.
I'm stretching my neck.
It's getting real hot over there, It's getting real hot.
But poke her neck next time
she
stretches. Yeah, you stretch the other way. Stretch the other way.
Oh my goodness. So that was really good. That was some good information. So with that being said, do you feel like couples should take on the debt of their spouse? Should that be a team effort, or is that one of those things that is kind of different per couple depending on whatever their goals are?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question when you say that, because a lot of times that's the biggest fear we have, especially as a married couple, right? Or even in dating. I find a lot of, my singles are like, I don't want to date somebody who has debt. I don't want to date somebody who because like that's a fear that they have to take that person's debt on, right? They have to assume their debt. And the truth of the matter is, once you are married, it's yours anyway.
Yep.
It's yours anyway. So you don't have a choice. You don't have a choice, because if your spouse passes away, the debt does not go away. Okay. It's assumed by their next of kin, which, you as the spouse will be the closest next of kin.
Right.
And if you're not married, for those who are listening, maybe not married, well, then it passes on to your children, your parents, your aunties, your uncles, your cousins, until they find somebody. The same way they would pass your inheritance on, money you leave behind, until it finds somebody, your debt goes the same way, except for federal student loans. Those ones leave when you go. But Sally Mae.
Them privates don't go nowhere.
Privates don't go anywhere. But federal student loans, when you go, they go. But private student loans, they're here to stay. Okay. Nothing you can do about her, but you got to work that thing out. But so you automatically assume that person's debt. Now, your strategy on how you tackle it, that can be a little bit different. So the first thing that I always recommend clients do is that they have the proper life insurance, which is your guarantee. That if something happens to you, because, let me ask you this question. How long do you all plan on staying together?
My goal is forever. Okay.
Forever.
I was going to verify with him.
I said it before you did. You had to go a whole sentence. My goal, forever. I didn't have to think about it. I should just look at her.
You can stretch your neck on this.
Stretch
one, right?
my neck.
So most married couples, the goal is to stay with that person for forever. So you plan on spending money together forever. You plan on achieving financial goals together forever. Like, it's a forever thing. So having the right life insurance says that if for whatever reason out of our control, whether somebody gets terminally ill, sick, or they pass away too soon, and we don't reach forever, you don't leave me with your burden. Right? And that's what it should cover. So it should cover your debts. It should replace your income that we've built this life off of 2 incomes for people in that situation.
Right.
It should pay off the house, right? So I don't have to pay this mortgage because maybe we split it or whatever the case may be, or your pension was paying for, something of that nature. That it still covers our kids in the education and the life that we want them to have. So that's the first thing, is you have to ensure that your forever happens regardless. Right? For things that are, whether, out of your control, you still want to make sure you do that. So that's the first thing I tell couples. You got to make sure that you both get insurance on each other, especially if you have debt, because you don't want to stick that with the other person. Okay. And even if it's not, credit card debt, a car note, you can't take the car back to the lot and say, he's not here anymore, she's not here anymore, take it back.
Right.
No, this is for another 2 years or 3 years or whatever it's for. Somebody has to pay. You can't just take the house and say, take it back. Either you have to sell it or so forth. So that's the first thing. And then as far as setting goals, that's why it's important that couples do that, because if you do have debt, you want to get out of it. Debt is like the new slavery. It's very hard. It's a slippery slope. Once you get in, it's very hard to get out of. And so you want to put that on your goals. If it's something that's important to both of you, that you manage that, and that you find a way and have a plan to actually get out of that. And if that's truly your forever partner, you don't want to see them in bondage.
That's right.
You want to help them get free, right? Because I want to travel. I want to live a good life. Yes. And I don't want, it's like going out to eat with your friends. You know how you got those friends you got to eat, and then you go out, and then you got your one group of friends that everybody split the bills, no big problem. But then you got your other friends, you go out, and somebody like, I only had the water.
Right, and that's all I'm paying for. I didn't even eat that. I had one chip out the whole thing.
I had an appetizer, bro.
So it's just like, you don't want it to be your spouse.
Right.
While you're thinking about doing certain things and they are mentally boggled down with debt, you don't want that to be your relationship, because you want to experience life together. You signed up to do this together. And so part of that is yes. Now, does it mean I got to take my money and pay down your debt? Maybe, if that's what y'all decide to do. But does it mean I can help you? I can make sure we stay on goal. I'm not doing things that infringe your goal. For example, if your goal is to pay an extra $1,000 to your debt every month, I'm not coming in with like this a lavish, random trip out of nowhere. Hey, babe, let's go here. And because I know my partner, and depending on his love language or my love language that he might be trying to serve me with, he may do it anyway, in spite of or in sacrifice of his goals. So it makes you a good partner to know their goals, to help keep them in line and keep them on track. And that you're not doing anything to quote unquote sabotage what it is they're trying to do, but you're being that supportive spouse.
That's a good answer. This is good. I told you this is going to be good. I told you this is going to be a good one.
I thought you made a great point about the life insurance, because I don't think a lot of people even look at it that way.
They don't.
I think they
just GoFundMes.
Yeah, a lot of GoFundMes, and I think that's why the people have the whole ordeal of, I don't want to go in with somebody that has debt.
Yeah.
They don't think about that, about, trying to absorb the debt and try to help each other off, and the helpmate thing, and the life insurance, that's a big part of it. And they just don't even think about that. But you made great points with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important because, I had, family members very close to me, and I always use them as a wonderful example. In love, retired, live in a gorgeous estate, and one of them passed away unexpectedly within 10 months. Wow. And the other one, while they're trying to grieve the spouse that passed away, they were left holding a lot of bills. You know, they had $1 million home that still had a mortgage on it. You know, they had luxury vehicles that still had car notes on it. And they, you know, they were bleeding roughly around 2,000 a month out of their savings just to cover what was left behind. And whenever, you know, when I asked the question, well, what happened? Why didn't you have the proper life insurance in place for that? The answer was nobody ever talked to us about it. We never learned it that way. And that's why the financial literacy is so important.
Yes, I was just thinking about that.
Those are the things that nobody teaches us. And so when you look at generational wealth and talking about the used to be's, right? And having that story, nobody plans to be a used to be.
Right.
But if you don't know, if you don't know the rules to money, you can never expect to win the money game. And that's the most important part. And so when you look at a lot of communities, especially the African American community, we're not taught about the perpetuation of wealth.
Right.
So it starts again every generation. Every generation has to work hard to get up to the same point.
Right.
Versus, you know, 400 years of hard work that our ancestors have put in, we should be kings and queens.
Right.
We work hard, but we're not taught how to build. And what that really means. And so that's a big part of it. And that's a simple part, you know, to your point. Like life is very simple. But we're never taught how to truly use it. It's either, you know, put me in a pine box and put me underneath the church. Cremate me.
That's it.
So I got a question. So
Sure.
what is the difference between the ones, I guess the average Joes, I'm gonna say the average Joes, the ones who do the 9 to 5, married couple, you know, and the wealth ones, the ones who then, I guess, become rappers and they just get the instant money, or the pro athlete who just got drafted, next thing you know, he got $50 million, and all of a sudden, what differences do you come into that?
Yeah, so there's really no big difference. People think there's a difference, but there's not. My more wealthy, affluent clients, especially those who come into money very fast, it's not about how much money you make. You see, we think it's about that. It's not about how much money you make. It's simply about how much money you learn to keep. So that's why athletes go broke in 2 years after they get out of the whatever league they're in, right? Or, you know, lottery winners, it takes them about 5 years to deplete their assets. It's about the habits and what you do with the money. And it's why grandma, who has been the matriarch of the family, we haven't seen grandma work in years, but whenever somebody needs something, she always got something somewhere.
In the mattress.
It's the mattress, She's got an envelope in her room.
Yes. She come out of her shirt.
Yeah, to go get that envelope.
Here you go. I got you.
It's always something somewhere. So that tells us it's not about how much you make, but it is about how much you keep. It's about your habits. And so if you make $1 million, but you spend $1.1 million, versus if you make 40,000 and you only spend 20,000, the person who makes the 40,000 is in a better position than the person who makes the millions.
Right.
And so when we see, you know, different celebrities or whoever complain about not having money, most of them are very judgmental. Like, man, if I had that money, I don't see how they went broke, how they did this. It's not about the money. It's about what you do with the money. What you know to do with the money. Because think about it, if I'm 18 years old and I got the same lessons that we all received growing up financially, and you give me $1 million, what am I going to go do with that money?
Spin it.
Blow it.
Spin it.
Don't let me come from an impoverished background. Oh, I'm blowing money fast. Everything they said I could not have, I'm coming to get. That's what we think. That's our socialization with money. A lot of times people socialize wealth with things that they have, the material aspects. That's really debt that we're assuming, you know? So those individuals, there's no true difference in that fashion. Now, what we do find is that people who make at least $250,000 or more in this country, they have the financial advisors in the large companies, your Merrill Lynch's, your Charles Schwab, your JP Morgan, that solely provide financial literacy and education to those individuals. Mm-hmm. Right? So if I were to go to, and this is not a knock on any company, so if I were to go to any of the big financial companies that you hear and say, hey, I want you to teach me about money, before I even can set an appointment with a real person, they want to know, how much money do you have?
Wow.
And if you don't have at least $250,000, this is even at your local bank. A lot of local banks have taken away the personal aspect of teaching people about money based on how much they make. Because the finance industry is a commission-based industry, right? It's the largest industry in the world. They're here to make money. Let's be very clear. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have a certain amount of money for me to manage or invest, I'm not teaching you about money. So what we see is that those wealthier individuals, they get access to people teaching them about money. Think about it. When's the last time somebody knocked on your door and said, let me teach you about money?
No.
Never. Mm-hmm. But if you had $3 million, how many people will be calling you trying to teach you about money?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. That's true.
So that's only 5% of the country who makes over $250,000. The other 95% makes less than that. So there's no resources. There's nobody fighting over them. There's nobody trying to educate them. And that's why you see so much hunger right now for financial literacy. When you turn on the TV and social media and you see so many different celebrities getting involved in, whether it's investing or stocks or so forth, because the information it's there, but it's not given to the people who still have the same goals, dreams, and ambitions as those who have the millions of dollars, right? They just don't, have the finances right now. Doesn't mean that you can't get there, but if you have the education, that's a big proponent of it. And that's why I love what I do, is because it's now taking Wall Street concepts and making them accessible to the everyday individual, as you call them, the average Joe, right? That's most of America. That's most of America, and allowing them an opportunity to learn. And I'm a firm believer that if you know better, you will do better. Mm-hmm. At the same time, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink.
There you go.
Right? But you can't say you didn't know.
Right.
You can't say you didn't know, because you got opportunities out there to really learn.
That's good. So you mentioned something briefly about creating generational wealth. So besides, I know you mentioned financial literacy and making sure, that we pass that down to generations. What other steps could people do to ensure generational wealth within their family?
That's a good question. So, you kind of said the first part. The easiest way to create generational wealth is through insurance, through life insurance. It's the easiest way, because it's the only money that passes down tax-free in this country. And the only qualifications for it is that you got to be healthy, and that you have to have enough in respect to your income. So, for example, if you are young in your, in your early 30s, you can get 30 times your income insurance. And if you're healthy, it's going to be relatively inexpensive for you. That's almost a guaranteed way to leave an inheritance, in the simplest way. Next steps from that is you want your children or the next generation to inherit assets. So whether that's going to be investments, that's going to be real estate, that's going to be a business, you want them to inherit things that put money in their pocket versus things that take money out of their pocket. Mm-hmm. So you don't want them to inherit a mortgage. Mm-hmm. Okay. Baby, I'm gonna leave you this house. Now if you got a mortgage on it, don't leave it to me. Don't give it to somebody else, because that's a debt.
Yeah.
But we think we're doing the right thing, but that's a debt. No, don't get that to me. Baby, I'm gonna leave you these fur coats. Are they the good ones? Appreciate and value. So looking at your assets and being able to make sure that you're leaving or passing behind things that will put money in your pocket. So that's how you know it's an asset. Mm-hmm. Anything that puts money in your pocket is an asset. Anything that takes money out of your pocket is a liability. Okay, it's a very simple way. So leaving those behind, having a will, is very, very important, especially for those people who have children or plans to have children. Because if you die or you pass away without a will, that's called dying in a state. And at that point, the state determines who gets your assets. So you have less control. And then eventually you want to work your way up into having a trust. And a trust is where not only do you get to determine who gets your asset, but you get to set in place what they do with the asset.
Okay.
So, for example, you may have a home that is paid off with no mortgage, and you may say, this home can never be sold, right? You can't do that in a will. You can only do that in a trust. In a will, I can say, little Johnny gets the house, but I can't tell little Johnny what to do with the house.
Okay.
And if little Johnny is not educated with the house, he's going to look at one of those little ugly signs and say, we buy houses for cash, fast.
Yeah.
And he might get tripped up into giving away $1 million worth of asset for $7,000 fast cash.
Right.
Not understanding, the full property. So in your trust, you can say who gets it as well as what they can do with it. Which gives you a little bit more control, especially if you have young children, or maybe a spouse or someone who's not as financially savvy or educated as you, that you can make sure that asset continues to provide income over the long term and give them some financial security that way.
Nice.
That answered your question.
It did.
Yeah, you did.
You're giving you dropping some gems, girl. Dropping some gems. Did you have any questions, babe?
Yeah, I do have another question.
I felt it. That's why I asked you. I did.
Okay, my next question is, why do you think that with financial literacy we don't teach that in schools, mainly high school, or you can even start a little earlier than this, I guess middle school, and kind of educate, because that's a real life goal. Because everything we was coming up, they was like, well, you're gonna need this when you get in the real world, you're gonna need this, and they don't teach that. They don't even teach it in college. Well, I don't know what they teaching them now, but when I was in there, they wouldn't teach it. They would just use an accountant. All right.
Yeah,
that's it. But I think that's something that we as individuals, black, yellow, brown,
everybody,
they need to know that.
Yeah,
they need to know that. So that's a key thing of a life skill that you need, instead of just trying to learn the hard way. Or is it just I guess a money making thing where it's just you don't teach them, so everybody else, the big corporations and everything, they can still capitalize on
your ignorance.
Yes.
I can't speak for why people do what they do or don't do what they do. But currently to date, financial literacy is only mandated to be taught in 5 states across the United States at the high school.
Wow.
And those legislators, they fought for that. And if you look at the states, and don't ask me to rattle them all offhand, but if you look at those states, it's like Utah, West Virginia.
Something weird. I was thinking that it's probably something weird.
But Utah, actually, that's where most financial companies are established out of. And that's done very strategically. If you look at the population that is there and the amount of wealth that is there, that it has to be a priority to your legislators. It has to be a priority of something that we as citizens demand for. In addition to that, it goes back to the rules to money. See, if you don't understand how money works, you better believe these corporations do.
They do.
Right.
And if they do, the less you know, the more they're able to profit.
Right.
So I always use the example of banks, right? I got my first job at 14, and my dad said, always save your money, put your money in the bank. Put my money in the bank. That's what you're supposed to do. But once I learned what banks actually do with my money, why am I putting my money in the bank? You put your money in the bank. Like, think about it. If you were to give your friend money, say, hey, hold my money, and they were taking your money and flipping it, making millions off your money, and then giving you a 2 cents
interest
every month,
yeah,
wouldn't you be highly upset.
Mm-hmm.
And then want to charge you just to hold the money.
And make you go through a credit check.
Right.
You to borrow your own money.
Mm-hmm.
You look at your friend like, fool, it's my money.
Right.
But we're not taught to look at banks that way.
Mm-hmm.
We're just taught to put your money there.
Right.
Because where else do you put it?
Right.
You know, for $1 million, they're like, we'll give you 1% if you have $1 million. But they can charge up to 30% for loaning your money out to stabilize the economy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then when they mess up your money, how they did in 2008, they just go to the government and ask for a bailout.
Oh, some more, yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So if we knew better, nobody would do it. If you knew how your 401k actually operated, many people may do something different. Who knows? But we're just taught that these are things you should have.
Mm-hmm.
We're not reading the 40-page packet that comes along with it. Who's actually getting paid? And that's how, you know, the finance industry, like I said, it is the largest industry in the world. It's a $63 trillion industry. Compared to other industries like real estate, it's only $4 trillion. You know, it's massive. So you got to know you got to know the rules. Yeah. You got to know what you're doing. Otherwise, you know, you're going to get burned. And that's what happens to most people, unfortunately. But we are here to help change that and to really make a difference and provide the literacy so that you can start to make more educated, informed decisions, not just going off of what you know. But yeah, but we got to start with us until, you know, it changes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You are absolutely right. Siedah, you have been really dropping some gems. I just want to let you know all of this is very, very good information that everybody needs to hear.
Exactly.
It's been very, very helpful. Do you have anything else?
No, I don't.
Okay, I didn't feel that you did. It's just double checking.
Ooh, I can. I could.
Later, like we can talk about this later.
Right.
I mean, I could go deeper, but it'd be a longer podcast around here. She might have some other stuff to do.
Oh, whatever.
You know, people might not have believed him when he said it.
That's right.
I told y'all.
Oh, okay. I give you this. I know we was doing the we were talking mainly about marriages and everything, but I want to touch on people who are single. I know you deal with that. You do deal with that, right? Single, and there is, you know, I try to tell my wife that in whoever that men think differently when it comes to their money, especially when they're getting into a relationship or trying to get in a relationship or even marriage. And I try to put it out there that if their pocket ain't right, they ain't trying to be right with you. And that's not even throwing shade. It's just they're there. If they don't feel like they're established or even just stable, period, then everything else is not going to work.
Yeah. You know, I think men think differently, period.
Of course.
Amen.
There's, you know, in a lot of different ways. A lot of that, again, has to do with the socialization.
Right.
Right. And so if, you know, a male is raised in a household where the man pays all the bills, the man is, you know, the supporting, the rock, the foundation, he provides for his family, you're absolutely right. That is their mentality. Mm-hmm. You know, I say, hey, you either catch them right out of college or you wait until they're about 30.
Right.
Figure it out. Figure it out. If they come from that type of cloth, you understand? And I'm not speaking for all men, trust me. So I don't want nobody sending me no hate mail. Like,
right. No, they ain't gonna speak no. They ain't gonna send you no hate mail. I mean, it's really true though.
What I see, right? You either catch them at the beginning, or you gotta wait until they figure that thing out.
Right.
You know, it's a good thing. It's because they really want to get themselves together. And so for those people who are single, that's the best time. What? Single and no major responsibilities, you know, no children, nobody depending on you. Mm-hmm. That is the best time to be saving and investing your money. Mm-hmm. I like to call it a blessing because you have what most people are envious of. You don't got nobody depending on you. Mm-hmm. And so have this thing called a midlife crisis, right? People typically hit a midlife crisis because they weren't prepared for that part of life. And the midlife crisis is when everything comes together at once. Okay. I'm now married. I got kids. I got, either daycare or tuition, a car note, all this stuff. I'm not where I want to be in my career. I'm trying to get promoted and do these, it's a lot. Mm-hmm. That is stress. Midlife crisis is stress. Mm-hmm. So if you're in a position where you are single and you don't have anyone to on you, you can prepare yourself so much more better so that when that time comes, you can say, oh, I saw you coming a mile away. Mm-hmm. I already have an emergency fund. Mm-hmm. I already got money set aside for investment. I already took the time to double down when I was younger, to invest heavily maybe in my retirement and my job so that when life happens, which it does, mm-hmm. it will, you are more prepared for it. So there's less stress. I'm not as worried about it. Now, if you're single and you blowing money fast, you're going to look back, as many people do. Mm-hmm. Say, you know how much money I had back in my 20s?
Man.
If I only knew what I know now, I would have done so many things differently. Mm-hmm. You don't got to wait to that. We've seen our parents and aunts and uncles and generations before us say the same thing. So this is our opportunity to say, that's not going to be me. Stack your bread now. Secure the bag now. Mm-hmm. So that when you do come together with someone else and that time is right, we're not worried about debt. We're not worried about how we're going to, eat. We're not worried about, do we have an emergency fund? I don't have a problem coming together financially because my finances are right and your finances are right. We took the time while we were single to do that. I'm not worried about, how many children I want to have because how can I afford them? Mm-hmm. That's the biggest thing I get. Oh,
because children are expensive. Come on now. Between formula and diapers, that's just out the moon. We ain't even got the sports and all this other stuff, school fees and Jesus.
So in your mind, that may be the life you want to provide for your family. Mm-hmm. Right. But if you didn't financially prepare for that, instead of it being the joy and the blessing that you expect, it can turn into a burden. Mm-hmm. So you want to use that time to get right. And if the person that you are dating or seeing is trying to get it together and get it right, let them get it right. You should spend the same amount of time and energy getting your stuff together because we all got work to do.
Right.
That's very true. And I'm glad we're talking about this because this actually leads us into our A&P topic of the week, okay? So our A&P topic, this is the question. Now, well, first of all, before I answer the question, let me put this scenario out here because I know Fillmore and I saw, it was a while ago, something on Instagram where this guy said he took a girl out on a date. He had a budget. He had the budget and the young lady was upset that he budgeted for their date. And essentially
did she know what the budget was? I don't think
she didn't know what the amount was, but he revealed to her that he has a budget for this date. She took that as him being cheap and all this type of things. And I was like, that's interesting. So that scenario led me to the A&P topic this week was, should money or a lack thereof be a deciding factor in whether you pursue a relationship with someone? What do you think?
So I think money is definitely a factor in whether or not you pursue a relationship with someone. Should it be the deciding factor, the end all be all? Absolutely not. And that's simply because people can grow.
Right.
People have opportunities to change. And it's like saying, if you get together with somebody and they don't have strong biceps, that's just a muscle that they may have never worked out before, but they can learn how to work that muscle and get better at it. Mm-hmm. So same thing, most people we talked about don't understand money. So you got to give them the opportunity to learn it. At the same time, you can't be blind to habits that are in place. And this is why, having these conversations are very important. This is deeper than I like you, you like me.
That's right.
We're a happy family.
That's right.
This is, what do you think about investing?
Mm-hmm.
What's your risk tolerance? Are you conservative, where you keep everything real, hold it real tight, you don't want to lose anything,
Mm-hmm.
but you also don't make anything?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you the gambler? Throw it at the wall and see what sticks.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the mental conversations that you want to have with somebody, especially in the early stages, to see, what their habits are versus what are some things they just have not learned yet. When my husband and I first dated, neither one of us knew anything about money. Okay, neither one of us.
Mm-hmm.
He came from a middle class family. I came from, a family that needed help.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus help us. So,
Jesus help us.
my idea of what you should do with money was very different than his idea of what you do with money.
Mm-hmm.
I was always talking and thinking about money because it was always a big deal in my life.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like, he drove a Mercedes in college, and I was asking him for a ride. Flying bus. So it was different.
Mm-hmm.
But we both had more to learn, because what we learned up until that point was not what we needed to learn to take us the long haul.
Mm-hmm.
And so you got to give people that grace. You got to extend that grace, because you're going to need that grace extended to you. I know you think you got it all together, but baby, there's some things you just have not learned yet.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all what it's about, being in a relationship and being married. And so should it be a factor? Absolutely. Should it be the end all be all? I don't think so.
Good answer. Good answer. I like that. Well, Fillmore and I, as you all know, will reveal our answer a little later. We'll give y'all a little feedback of what we think. Why are you looking like that? Can you smile?
Well,
Just smile. Just smile. Just smile.
Now you gave it away. The people didn't know I was smiling. I was just looking at the camera.
Well, Siedah, thank you so much for joining us today. Again, tell everyone your social media platforms and where they can find you and how they can set up any type of session with you. Give them all their information again.
Yeah, so you can follow me on social media. Most platforms, I'm under Siedah Garrett. I'm on Instagram _Siedah Garrett. That's SIEDAH. It's phonetic. That was my campaign slogan in college. _Siedah Garrett, Facebook Siedah Garrett. You can also visit us online at www.y, the letter Y, and the word AND.com. That's where you can book a consultation with me, a quick discovery call, so we can figure out what's going on and how my team and my firm and I can be of service of any that what you may have going on. So again, _Siedah Garrett on Instagram. You can also follow us at Young and Financially Lit on Instagram, and you can visit us on the website to book a consultation or discovery call. It's 15 minutes complimentary, yandfl.com.
Nice.
Beautiful. All right, guys, y'all heard it here first. Miss Siedah, thank you so much for joining us today. Be sure to follow her on all of her social media platforms. Book those consultations, y'all. Listen, this is something that we need to be aware of. What is that? Financial literacy. Spit it out, right?
Right.
It's something that everyone. Shut up. It's something that everybody needs to happen. We definitely want to create a line of generational wealth, so we don't want to be part of the used to be's. Okay, that's one thing I've learned today. I don't want to be a part of the used to be's. Hello, hashtag used to be's. Well, y'all, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Our Journey of Love. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms. We got Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We are on
everything.
We on everything, y'all. Just follow us. Y'all know how. Just follow us. Y'all know. And as I always like to say, listen, love is patient, love is kind. Be sure to join us here next time.